Let me start off by thanking Mustafa and certainly to Tag and Andrea and Jack and all of the board members and certainly all of you. Look, it is a gorgeous day, and the breeze feels great, and that's the best seat over there in the house, or right there. That's the best seat, and it's good to see everybody's faces. In a long time, we've seen some of people's faces. And I assume that everybody's been vaccinated fully. I assume. If not, I've got a small little can of Lysol. Wait a minute, I'm going to spray you. I got using technology. It tells me whether or not you've been fully vaccinated. And if you're not, it's automatic spray can for you. But look, to all of the members of City Council, and let me acknowledge them again because Wednesday is budget day, and I've seen some of their amendments already. So let me acknowledge them. Councilmember Cisneros, how you doing? Good to see you. Councilmember David Robinson and your participation. TPC, appreciate your leadership. Thank you so very much. Where's Councilmember Pollard? I know he was back there. How you doing, Councilmember Pollard? Pull that amendment down. Any other council members here? I don't want to miss any of them. I love this group so much, I tell you. We just work so well when we work together in unanimity with one another. But I do want to thank TAG Houston. I want to thank, of course, the Houston City Council members, Harris County, Metro, TxDOT, HGAG, the Houston Bike Share, Houston Park Board, Bike Houston, Link Houston, the Greater Houston Partnership, and so many others. Look, let me start by asking a question. I won't have you to say it out loud, but just from my point of reference, how did you get to the Grove today? How did you get here? Most people either drove. Let me just a show of hands. Most people drove. Okay. What's that? Okay. People carpool. Okay. Anybody walk from where they? A lot of people. All right. Good. Anybody took the rail today? Anybody got something that took the rail? What about took a bicycle? Anybody did that? Now, if you took a scooter, I'm going to be mad with you because it's not permitted. So I'm not going to ask that question. But most of you today got here by driving or carpooling. And so, and of course, that's the city that we have built for so long. You built it, they shall come. And over the decades, we have built roads. That's the choice we have invested so much money in. And after years and years of investing in our city, we know people use what we build. Our biggest investment by a wide margin is our investment in our roads. And people have taken us up on that investment and mostly travel throughout our region using those very roads. Believe it or not, it is not the only way people travel around in our city. People use all the modes we invest in. And decades ago, we invested in Metro. And today, Tom, we have one of the most successful bus-based park and ride systems in the country. You might not know it, but Houston is a walking and biking city as well. We have people, I love the music. I tell you, it seems like I ought to be bouncing right along with it. We have people using every travel choice we give them. And they use every one of those choices every single day of the year. And some of you use them in getting to this speech today. You might drive to work downtown, or you might use Metro Rail to get to the Texas Medical Center. You might walk with a colleague to lunch, or you might bike to school with your kid. And a system that provides you these travel choices, one that grows those systems and lets everyone travel safely by whichever mode they choose, that is the future of this city. We have embraced our paradigm shift from a driving city, and I now envision Houston as a city for all, served by all modes. Houston will be a multimodal city. And why should Houston be a multimodal city? Why shouldn't we continue to build more roads, wider roads, faster roads everywhere within our region? Because the more roads we build and the more space we dedicate to driving, the more space we lose by doing. You cannot fully experience Houston from the freeway if you focus so much on roads for the trip. We miss being a destination city. And Houston's future is a destination for residents and visitors from across the country and all over the world. As we speak here today, there are ambassadors coming from the continent of Africa right here in this city that I will be speaking at a lunch when I leave this particular meeting. Even the president and the queen of Uganda are right here in this city. They have come from all over the world. And why are they here? Because Houston is a destination city, a place where people want to live, want to do business, want to visit, and see what it's all about. We even attract people from Oklahoma because we know this is a destination city. It is impossible to be a destination city at 70, or to view the destinations at 70 miles per hour. To be that destination city, we must be a walkable city, one where people can walk out of their homes in Acres Home, or walk out of their hotel downtown, or walk out of their Airbnb in Montrose, and walk safely and comfortably along sidewalks and across streets to a cafe or an office, to the convention center, or to even go from one store to another. This past year, we made our city more walkable with 50 miles of new and reconstructed sidewalks. We piloted the first ever Slow Streets project in Eastwood, and we conducted the city's first connectivity study, working with Council Member Kamen to improve connections between Montrose and Midtown. We also promised that everyone could walk safely and released our Vision Zero Action Plan, because we can eliminate death and serious injuries on our roadways. To be the destination city, we must also be a bikeable city, one where people can bike at any age along our existing 340 miles of bike facilities. Today are the 1,800 miles of bike facilities we are planning. And this year alone, we are adding 13 miles and have another 50 miles in design or construction. And people can bring their own bike or use our 800 B-cycles, including 100 electric bikes provided by Harris County Precinct 1. That is my preferred way to ride a bike. Some prefer just to do it in a manual way, but I believe in technology. It's the electric bike that I prefer. To be that destination city, we must be able to connect to transit and ride it anywhere we want to go. And Metro is a great partner to us, with Metro Next as their guide for the future. Metro operated even in the midst of the pandemic. And Tom, I want to thank you and the board members for your work. They opened the Metro Rapid Silver Line in August with dedicated bus lanes along Post Oak Boulevard, connecting uptown Houston to two major transit centers. And they are now kicking off their first boost routes, the 54 Scott and 56 Airline Montrose, to provide a better walk, a better shop, and a better shelter. And to be that destination city, we must imagine transit as even more than metros, buses, and rail. We need transit to connect us to the whole state of Texas and beyond by moving more people in fewer vehicles and at higher speeds. At this scale, we're working with Texas Central on their high-speed train project, so that residents, business people, and visitors can travel from Houston to Dallas in 90 minutes. Imagine having left Dallas less than 2 hours ago to join us in person for Houston State of Mobility speech. That is Houston as a multimodal city, as a destination city. And it is my hope that Texas Central and its investors will remain true to their commitment. And at the same time, my conversations with U.S. Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg have been very positive, and simply put, they have been supportive and continue to be. So Stephanie Nellens Page, it's my hope that we will regain the momentum and get that bullet train built between Houston and Dallas. And let's be clear, I am not saying people will not drive. People will. This is Texas. This is Houston. It's the Houston region. People are going to drive their cars, their trucks. And we will continue to accommodate people driving as one of their travel choices. This year alone, we built or reconstructed more than 70 lanes, miles plus, overlaying nearly 200 lane miles, retimed traffic signals at 800 intersections, and implemented the city's advanced traffic management central software to make our roadways more efficient, more comfortable, and safer. And I want to thank Director Carol Haddock and her team for simply doing an amazing job at repairing many of our bad streets in the city of Houston. But they are bad for a reason, because over the decades, we have not spent what we needed to spend to make sure that we have nice roads and streets in our city. And so, but when we talk about our roadways, we must always make sure that our roadways serve our city, not dominate it. We must use our roadways to support our community, the people who live here and the businesses they serve, and not overwhelm us with traffic, concrete, and noise. And that is why I maintain that the North Houston Highway Improvement Project could be, and I underscore could be, the project of a generation. And it could be, and I underscore could be, transformational. Transformational if it's done right. It could be reconstructed with drainage and flood mitigation as a priority, designed with a footprint that only takes that right-of-way that is needed, constructed to be compatible with transit infrastructure and Metro Next, designed to enhance neighborhood connectivity, green space, trail connections along the banks of Buffalo Bayou, White Oak Bayou, Little White Oak Bayou, and Halls Bayou. And the construction comes with a firm commitment to provide just compensation for all relocations and displacements, especially as it relates to housing. Over the last 30 days, Chairman Bruce Bugg and I have met in person and have had several conversations in hopes of moving this project forward. Those discussions continue. And Elijah, it is my hope that if we genuinely work together in good faith, recognizing that the community input is important, that what happens in this city is important, that this project can move forward. We must keep in our vision in mind. Houston is a destination city. Houston is a multimodal city. And Houston is not just a city of roads. And the way we have done things in the past, over the decades, will not represent the future of our city. This is a different time, and we must do things differently. I want the I-45 project to move forward. Let there be no mistake about it. I want it to be built. I believe it can be transformational, but it must be done in collaboration, in partnership with Houston and Harris County, and not without their support. And so I hope that TxDOT and all of those in the region will work with us to move it forward. I have been in office for some 30 years. I have worked with TxDOT, Elijah, over the decades. And in most cases, we have been able to reach a meeting in the minds. And I believe there's an opportunity here, and I'm hoping that we can find it. Streets and parking lots that were previously only dedicated to moving and storing cars are not offering the city their full value and can become so many other things. And this year, we created the More Space program that allows restaurants to convert 50% of their unused parking spaces and use the space to serve customers during COVID restrictions. We then extended the concept to More Space, Main Street, where the city is closing certain blocks of Main Street to vehicle traffic and allowing restaurants and bars to serve customers in the roadway. Opening our transportation vision is not only on land. Embracing the value of waterways, the Port of Houston now has early stage approval for the widening of the ship channel that will, with industry support, also lead to the deepening of the same channel, allowing us to be more freight in less space. Why stop at waterways? For us to be a true destination city, our transportation must take us to the stars. 6 years ago, we became a licensed federal spaceport. We have invested in infrastructure at this spaceport, and last week, City Council passed 2 major projects that will be building space infrastructure. And when we say Houston is a multimodal city, we recognize that even the astronauts walking to the ship happens to be a pedestrian. What Houston can do right here on Earth, we can do in space as well. Quite frankly, there is nothing we cannot do when we are willing to work together. To keep moving Houston forward, to become this destination city, we must continue to work with our partners. And during this Texas legislative session, we have worked with our long-standing partners at TAG, Transportation Advocacy Group, as they led advocacy for transportation funding even amidst a pandemic-plagued legislative session. I want to acknowledge what Andrea had to say. They kept the message going and strong through virtual conversations with House and Senate leadership, with their Ledge and Learn and Under the Dome series and consistent and aggressive advocacy. They educated lawmakers early on, and these investments have paid off with major legislation now in its final stages of session, about to cross the victory line. Now, I must add, even though I want some of these things to be completed, I can't wait until they sine die. It's time for the legislators to come home. And we will provide buses, we will provide bikes, we will provide trains, we will provide TNCs, and though I don't like them, we'll send them scooters to bring them home. But the legislation up to this point include for counties to implement transportation reinvestment zones, allowing TxDOT bonding capacity once more with the Texas Mobility Fund, studying the impact and road consumption of all vehicles to better determine equity for future transportation fees and taxes, and expanding the authority of our very own Gulf Coast Rail District beyond commuter rail. And Carol, I do want to acknowledge and thank you for your leadership. It should also be noted that no transportation dollars were taken from the budget, something many were concerned about would happen. We are not at the finish line yet, and our work certainly is not done. There were many bills that did not make it, including an effort to set speed limits based on context, and we will continue to pursue this and additional vision, zero-based legislation, and push for policies that promote the safety in our movements and mobility. If you want to see the vision for our future transportation system, TAG's Motion Map is a great resource, and the Motion Map illustrates our regional collaboration and collective consensus for the projects that matter most to our city and region. We cannot move forward unless it is together. TAG and working with its partners, whether it's Metro, TxDOT, the Port of Houston, the City of Houston, and others, continue this critical work to move us all in the right direction. And let me ask you once more, Many of us came here utilizing our roads. And I do want to be very clear. That's important for the network that we establish in our city. But I also want to emphasize the people that are now in our city and coming to our region. And they are looking for the same kind of transportation systems that were in the places from which they come. And it's important for our future that we make those options available. It can no longer be viewed as a one-way. It has to be a multimodal approach. And if we don't do that, we miss out. And it's my hope and my prayer that when it comes to funding and designing our systems, that it's not a partisan issue, but it's simply an issue of what we need to move us forward. This is an opportunity to do something transformational. I will tell you, in the remaining 2.5 years that I have left, I will regret if we don't take full advantage of the opportunities that currently exist. I hope that what's playing out on the national scene and even on the state scene will not play out locally. If we do that, we will all miss. And so when I come back again for the 7th State of Mobility speech, I hope I can report at that point in time that when it comes to Texas Central, we are building a bullet train to bring people from Dallas. I said it one way, okay? Now, when it comes to the I-40 project, that we are building, reconstructing a highway system that will mitigate the risk of flooding that occurs right now. Because for those of us who drive up and down I-45, if it rains, I-45 and Main will flood. And if you go down to I-45, Airline, Tidwell, Parker, and Little York, you may as well keep on driving because the feeders are underwater. So the project, what exists today, is outdated, and it needs to be significantly enhanced. But it has to be done in such a way that recognizes the importance of our parks and our green space, and even build more. It has to be done in mitigating the risk of flooding. It has to be done in such a way that connect our communities and not further divide them. It has to be done in such a way that doesn't take more than what's required, and it significantly damages the independent hikes of our community. And it has to be done in such a way that people who are displaced, that they are displaced, but they are taken care of at the same time. If we are willing to make those commitments, then I believe the next time we meet, then we can say that project is moving forward, because quite frankly, it should. The only thing that will stand in the way is if it engages in the sort of politics that is destructive and not constructive. And quite frankly, that is not the Houston way. In the next 2.5 years, I want to see a destination city where people are eager to come here because they recognize that when they get here, we can move them from point A to B. And then lastly, Carroll has 2.5 years later to build and repair these streets such that when you're driving on these streets, you can drink your coffee and it won't spill on your shirt. Carol, I know you can do it. I just know you can. And then with Metro, if we all pull it together, then I think we'll see a far different city than the city in which I came into the world in 1954. This is not 1954. It's not 1964 or 74 or 2004. It's 2021. Now let's build a city that's reflective of where we are and where we are going. Thank you.